April. I am Michael Perry, and I am pleased to be joined by National Master Okay.
Everybody.
Before we get started, we want to shout out a pretty big tournament coming up. But before then, we want to shout out kind of a smaller tournament that's happening this Saturday at the club. It's called the Raindrop Tornado. It is 4 rounds of game 30 plus 30. So make sure to check that out. The flyer on the Castle main webpage. And Jacob Pikus will be the TD for that one. And there's a total of $200 in prizes if 16 people enter. And then obviously the big tournament coming up. And today is really the last day to get the early entry discount. And of course, I'm talking about the Minneapolis Open. We have 39 players so far registered, including an international master. So that's pretty cool. And then, yeah, you can see the different sections there. But definitely if you want to play, and if you know for sure you can play, make sure to sign up by tonight or by tomorrow. I believe May 1st is technically at midnight is when the entry fee goes up. But yeah, pretty cool tournament there. And there's $8,000 in prizes. So it's a pretty big event for the castle. And we do have the cap space of 160 players. So another reason to register quickly. So make sure to check out that flyer there. And it looks like Dane Zagar, the president of the club, will be the TD on that one. And we did notice, the boss noticed that there was a mistake on the US chess flyer for this tournament for the Blitz. They had just made like a small mistake. But if you go to the online registration version, you can see the actual Blitz Championship details there. And that is accurate. So it's Saturday at 7 p.m. And I mean, you could get $500 for first just in the Blitz. So definitely a pretty big event. And then before we get into the games tonight, as it's the last round, I wanted to mention the standings. We have Dane Zagar leading the Premier with 3.5 out of 4. And his only quote unquote drop point was a half-point bye. And then he's being trailed closely by Jordan Tim and Nathan Hoover, pretty much the only people who can realistically catch him. And then for the open section, we have Srijan Vayanathan, if I'm saying that correctly. He is 4-0. And then the only people who can catch him are Kevin Landman and Steven Heinisch. So, and it looks like they haven't played each other yet, so we might get a pretty good matchup there. And without further ado, I'll send it over to OK for the games.
All right. We have a technical mishap there. I was trying to switch screens and stuff. But okay, yes, I'm back on the correct screen. So let's see. We'll go from board 1, see what's going on there. Or at least board 1 in order of how it's presented. I think board 1 would probably be Jordan Tim versus Dane Zagar. So maybe I'll actually start with that, especially since that one's already over. And well, I guess Jordan's involved, so it'll probably be a quick game. We'll see how this one went. E4. Jordan has been playing that as commonly recently, but he does play that. And we have a Petrov, which is Dane's favorite defense against the E4. So far, so normal. And I think this is a fairly standard position. And here, this is a bit different. I'm not as well versed in the opening here, but it seems as if this is maybe slightly not what Black wants in this position. So here we have an interesting IQP position, and Black is behind in development, it feels like. But he can quickly catch up with knight b6, using the tempo to get his bishop out. However, there's always danger or potential for danger when the bishop's on that diagonal and his queen can come to g6. So we'll see if George is able to take advantage of that somehow. All right, so knight b6 happens as expected, and then bishop g4. So he's starting to double the pawns on the king side, and so um, it would be nice to say it's out of a clear blue sky, but that would be cliche. But it is out of a clear blue sky. Blue sky. Bishop takes h6, and the idea behind it is LPDO. Loose pieces drop off. So even if Dane were to capture an f3, queen g6 is still attacking that bishop and threatening mate. So something's going to fall, or at least he'll come away with an extra pawn, and that's how the game proceeds. So okay, Jordan's managed to steal a pawn, but more importantly, Dane has what looks like a difficult defense.
Yeah, I think this next continuation is going to be really interesting. But you definitely called it with the bishop on b3 and the queen eyeing the g6 square, because this is exactly what happened.
Yeah, it's funny, so there's some precedence here. Sometimes in the French exchange, you'll have something like this. Of course, it could be mirror image, white or black getting something like this. And there's a famous game. I think it might have been, maybe it was Tatai, an Italian IM who was active back in the 80s. And he was playing white against Korchnoi, where Korchnoi plays an early c5 and gets an IQP type position against in the exchange French. And he has a tactic similar to that, where the bishop is on, I think, b6, and then the queen gets to d6, and then it shows up on g3. So it's okay. It's a theme, and that seems like unsportsmanlike conduct. So he's letting his bishop go, but he has he's got white. So white has got himself a position where black only has difficult decisions to make. Dane plays 97. Now, I'm interested to see what the idea is here.
Yeah, that was what interested me too, because you naturally want to push the queen away, and you don't mind the queen exchange because you're technically up material, and white's attacking. And if you can get that white queen to move, maybe we can play like rook to f8.
So I think the key is that the G file is open, and so the rook can jump in at a moment's notice after something like this and here. And now if king here, this is just winning. And if queen here, oh, this is a bit more difficult though. So if queen here, how is this being played?
I feel like it's tough to say who's winning this endgame. I feel like black was slightly preferable, just because the A and B pawns should run quick, as long as he can stop white's H pawn. But this would be an interesting endgame. So maybe Dane probably did see this line that we have on the board, and maybe he just didn't like all the pawns for white.
Possibly. Maybe, are we missing anything? So is there something better for white here? Better than queen d6.
Probably not, because I think rook f8 is a good try otherwise.
Yeah, that is true. And he has to do something quick, because otherwise queen f3 might turn the tables on him. So okay, he goes there. And yeah, I think queen here And then what? Queen here. Queen G7. I don't see. Yeah, because if you play queen here, then you just go here, and maybe white has no better than a draw there. Because I don't know that white wants to go into this, wants to exchange queens. The ending just seems like it'll be easier for black to play. So okay, well let's see what happens. So then knight d7. So yeah, I think queen g7 might have been a way to go, but they're both ambitious players, so chances are they do whatever they can to avoid drawish lines.
Yeah.
So that might explain knight d7. The only problem is that rook g1 comes and it is increasingly difficult to defend this position.
The only thing that knight d7 does, obviously it's nice to bring the knight back, but the only thing it does is stop queen f6. But you could have done that with queen g7, so yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I don't. Well, okay. Bishop e7 happens here, and so that's another question: is what is the point of bishop e7? Is there an overworked piece situation we're concerned about? Would bishop f4 have been more to the point?
What worries me about bishop e7 is then white just needs to move the queen, and we're threatening ideas like rook g8, because now black's queen is trapped on the back rank.
Yes, that's another point that argues against bishop e7. Yeah, I was thinking, okay, is bishop f4 working, giving h6 more protection, and then maybe queen e7, but then you have to control the g7 square. Let's see, is there any other move that black can play? Because bishop g6 could be an issue at some moment, forcing the knight to move. Maybe bishop d5, threatening the pawn on b7 would probably be even better out. A bishop e7, yeah, it seems like the queen is almost trapped on f8, functionally trapped on f8. So then here, and bishop g5 is not working.
Excuse me, allergies.
Or actually, maybe even bishop f6.
Oh, so rook h3, bishop g7?
Yeah. Although this might be troublesome. Well, we could play here.
It seems like black is hanging on, but ooh, I guess if bishop g7, bishop f5 might be a little worrisome.
So if here and here and here.
Oh, but we just had knight f6, yeah.
Yeah.
So this seems to be hanging on, and black should actually be better here.
So actually, the actual game went like so. Bishop here, and okay, bishop rook c8 is understandable in a way in that you're putting the rook on what seems like an active square, taking over the c file, but it does give Jordan an important tempo because of the pin. and allows him to reposition his bishop. And oh, this is interesting. So if bishop takes d7, oh, there's this. So now if here, then this is mating. So he plays bishop f5 instead, which, besides threatening mate, also defends against queen f3 shenanigans. Then tries to counterattack with rook c1. The king steps up, and the knight f6. Problem with knight f6 being that now the bishop is lost after rook h3, thanks to the pin against the h-pawn. And all of a sudden, his position is crumbling. And I think this might have been what he thought might save him, but he missed an important detail. It's a pin for sure, but it's not a safety pin. So then after rook takes h6, there, and all of a sudden, the pin is not as strong as it seemed, because the queen has to give itself up. And now the pinner becomes the pinned. The rook can't capture on f7 because it is now pinned against the king. So then Dane resigns before having to deal with this move.
Wow, that's
crazy.
That was an abrupt ending. This game's interesting because usually, like at this level, both players are essentially master level. Games don't finish in 32 moves, so this was, definitely a bit of a rarity. But now Jordan he leapfrogs Dane, and it looks like unless who is the other player in the running?
Nathan, I think, has.
Yes, Nathan is the only other player who can catch Jordan. Otherwise, Jordan will win.
Is Jordan building a bit of a streak here?
Who
won last? Oh, was last month him or was last month Nathan?
Yeah, Nathan might have been the winner last month.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to that. Let's go to the other pivotal game, so to speak. Nathan versus Michael Muff, and see how that's getting along. We'll start from the start. And so a King's Indian approach maybe might go Grunfeld, we'll see. And the double fianchetto. So Michael goes for a Grunfeld approach with d5. And they're going about the business of developing their pieces. And White is the first one to make a challenge in the center. But Black says, I too can attack the center. And he's trying to create the more open center that Grunfeld players like. As usual, using tactics to further his aim. Okay, so we've got a bit of a tactical fight here. And bishop g5 is an interesting choice. Sorry, bishop f6 is an interesting choice. Queen d2 happens. Eyeing the knight. King g7. This is an interesting decision point. White might have liked to play knight f5, pawn takes f5, queen g5, but the knight, he's not forced to play bad moves, so he can recapture an f5 with his knight, Black can. And so White plays bishop c1, to scare the knight away. Oh, interesting. That's actually a pretty cute maneuver, if I may say so myself. So he wants to double the pawns on f5, and it's kind of interesting how he goes about it. So he moves the knight away um, from h6, which means it'll have to be the pawn recapturing on f5, but he doesn't want to have to deal with the rook on a1 being constricted after the exchange. So then he gains the tempo with bishop a3, which means that the white rooks are now able to see each other, and then ruins black's pawn structure.
And
And
then
white's, yeah,
I said, and then he blocks because bishop
yes,
a3 is nice, but I guess he could have just done knight d4 too.
yes. But this has the advantage that all of his pieces are ready for action, and black not only has a wretched pawn structure, but his pieces aren't really making a great impression either. Um, and of course, he doesn't have bishop takes d4, queen takes d4, rook e2, because takes d4 is a check. And in any case, he probably doesn't want to be exchanging off minors if he doesn't have to, because the more minor pieces he exchanges off, the more the weaker the pawns will be obviously positioned. So he tries to get his knight on g8 back into the game.
Uh-oh.
And so I think at this point, it's probably a good bet that there'll be a tie for first, unless something crazy happens.
Probably a good bet. Whoa, what are these moves? Oh, I guess he's trying to go for a trick.
Yes. So this is actually kind of interesting. So I don't know why he had to do it this way. Why he couldn't just take if there's anything specifically wrong with just taking the pawn on d5 right away.
Yeah, queen d3 makes no sense. I almost feel like that's a DGT error. Because, like,
Yeah,
what's the point?
yeah. I think it probably was queen d5, and it might have been just queen d5 right away, and then the rest of the stuff is garbage. We'll find out a bit later, I'm sure. Because after queen d5, I think black could consider resigning with a clear conscience. Okay, let's see. All right, we have Robert Donahue versus Jacob Pikus, who is taking on the role of player rather than his more common role of PD on the weekends. Um, let's start this from the beginning. I'm going to wager it started with e4 because that's the Robert Donahue way. And we have an accelerated dragon with e5, which I do not believe has a good reputation, but it doesn't have a losing reputation. It's just, okay. Now this is truly a Robert Donahue opening. Um, what is this? Capture. Show me. Taking advantage of the pin down the long diagonal while attacking the pawn on e5, and queen e2 happens. Now I wonder if queen b6 seems okay.
What move were you considering?
Well, I was wondering if this is the time to consider bishop g4, but then queen b5 might be a bit inconvenient.
I like
So
bishop
queen
g4
is
too, but I guess because bishop g4, queen b5, bishop f3 takes f3. I feel like the pawn on e5 is more important than our b7 pawn. So
yes, and I don't even think he gets to enjoy the b7 pawn because we play queen d7 or something. So like you say here, 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 and then maybe even just queen d7. Although e6 might be a problem in that situation. So maybe queen c7 or queen b6. That's legal.
yes, because yeah, take advantage of the pin. We can be patient. Yeah, maybe so.
Yes.
Maybe just queens. I like queen c7, but well, I guess that does run into the same issue. Maybe queen c8. Because in
Yes.
order to win a pawn, what's the best way to win a pawn without damaging our structure?
Yes. Yeah. So queen c8 and um, I think his position is pretty decent, and Robert will have his work cut out for him. Of course, Robert will say, "It's just a pawn. What's the fret about?" So instead, queen b6 happens. Please, somebody make that make sense for me. What's the idea?
Huh.
D1.
He wants to get his knight to d3.
Oh,
Huh.
well, actually might be legit what he's thinking. I don't know. That seems a bit strange to me. Oh, that might have been part of the idea behind this, because with that move, that ensures, well, under normal play, that the knight isn't going to be activated on a3 going to c4, because otherwise the bishop hangs. Problem now, though, is he can capture on e5, and maybe he considers doing that with the knight. I'm not sure. Let's see if it makes much of a difference. Maybe this actually has some extra oomph to it if you can get e4 in, but Roberts deals with that by playing knight c3. And now his knight is itself starting to get active. I just feel bad for White's king. It's like a lost soul. Doesn't know
Yeah,
exactly where it
and
wants
black
to be
is
in
up
life.
2 pawns, and their development is not so bad. They're someone probably just play knight f6 and castle. So,
Yeah.
or maybe he
Or it
wants
could
to
be mean.
castle queenside. Who knows?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It could be mean spirited and just say, okay, well, you brought your king to the file my rook is going to be on. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this was necessary right away. He could have maybe that's a bit too slow. I was looking at b6 here, not to get into too many complications, but this is probably working just fine. I mean, he has to deal with the queen, the threat to the queen. Yeah, Robert's getting a little bit of something in this position. I don't know that the something is enough, but there's something there at least, some reason to play.
Yeah. Whoa. Let's.
Threatening bishop b5. But that's not. Oh, yeah, threatening bishop b5. So if well, I guess we're going to see it because that's what happens next. But is this mate?
Wait. But why would it have been mate?
Oh, if he goes into the corner, then I think this is working.
All I saw was a
Um,
perpetual.
yeah, and he does want a perpetual.
Oh, okay.
Um, let's see. Actually, let's see if there's anything else going on here. If there are any other ideas. Oh no, that's not mate. Unfortunately for white.
Yeah, because E7's offended.
Yes. Yeah, I was looking at maybe getting this in, but you can't both capture here and play bishop e7 after king f8. Um, so yeah, so you'd have to repeat. So white, so that tells me that Jacob figured this ending should be good. And okay, he's a pawn up, and white's pawn structure is still garbage. So I don't think it's a bad assessment. And the knight is unbreakable on f5. So if he had played knight c5, do you think that Jacob would have gone for repetition?
Um, I don't think so. Just because, well, because of the time usage, there's a decent chance. Otherwise, no, because he is still up a pawn, and White's pawns are a bit weak. But because he only has 6.5 minutes, he might have.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be, I think, a somewhat difficult decision. You don't want to throw away the full point, but your position would suggest you should keep on. We should keep finding a way to fight because White's position seems so oogly. So this is where we are currently. So we got here. Sorry. So we got here, and then he broke the repetition with knight before.
And Robert's under an hour. That's kind of rare.
I know, right? He's really a slowpoke today.
Hmm.
So, all right, we'll see what's happening there. Oh, it seems as if there was a decision on. So okay, so Queen d4, the whole Queen d4, Bishop f6, that was probably them doing immediate post-game analysis. Queen d5 was probably the actual end on move 22.
Yeah, otherwise, Queen d3, Queen d4, Queen d5 would be a pretty legendary way to end the game.
Yes. Oh, is somebody repairing the game?
Yeah, they must be. It looks like, yeah, it is changing as we speak, but
Yes. All right. Let's see what's happening in David Bocek versus Tom Babcock. So David seems like he's a specialist in these King's Indian attack positions. All right, so both players have got their pieces out, and we have an interesting battle. White appears to be trying to get a typical kingside pawn, a kingside attack going. The question is, will he have the time to marshal all the pieces over, prepare f5 probably. H3 is double-edged in a way, in that it does keep g4 unavailable to black's bishop and knight, but then g3 might be a weakness to be concerned about later. And right away, Thomas plays looking at f4, but also considering knight g3 possibilities. David says, go back. And Thomas says, no, thank you, I like it on h5. I'm going to take your knight on c3 first, which seems double-edged to me. It seems very double-edged to me, this decision.
Yeah, I wouldn't have the guts to do this myself.
No, all the fairy tales talk about black getting into trouble after giving up the important dark square bishop in these kind of positions. We'll see. It's
Well, I like the bishops more than the knights.
So I suppose neither of those knights on f8 or g7 is a candidate for minor piece most likely to succeed. It's just, man, yeah, this is going to be tough for Thomas. Well, he makes the practical decision.
And he sacrifices Derek.
Yes. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know that he's getting. So this is not a question of whether he's getting compensation. There's a question here of whether knight d7 might have been a cheaper way to defend. But I suspect, so if he plays knight here instead, defending f6 that way.
Yeah.
And then uses the knight on e5, and then maybe brings the one rook to g8, and then brings the other rooks to e5. That might, oh, rook b7. And everything is collapsing.
Because if knight f5, rook d7, right?
Yes.
And yeah, knight h4, rook f7, knight f3, but black's getting mated.
Yep. So okay, so that's why knight d7 wasn't working, and so this was not necessarily a Petrosian type positional sacrifice. It's born of necessity because there's no other way to defend f6. Now the question is, can you make those knights better employed? And I don't know that he's going to have a chance to answer that in the affirmative. Knight f5. I don't know. How does white deal with this? Oh, sorry, black deal with this. The knight here, trying to develop, drops this guy. If you play something like this, then maybe we do rook here, threatening queen takes h5, and rook g8. Oh, and it gets even worse, because if you try to escape with the knight, then this is still winning, because rook g8 is still a checkmate.
Yeah, beautiful deflection tactic.
Yeah, I would be proud to have that as a finish in my game. It's always easier when you're just commentating.
And shout out to David, because last month he tied for first with Jordan. So he is definitely looks like he's in good form.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, this actually happened in the game.
Oh, really?
No, knight h5 happened. I don't know whether. Let's go to the live game. So this is the position now, with David to play, and so we'll see. From there. Okay. Or is that for real? Actual live game. Okay, so this is what the live game claims it is. And let's see what happened between Matthew Krusak and Everyday Eddie. King's Indian. Petrosium with a bit of a. No. This is not Petrosium. This is just a little Marta Plata. Marta Plata going into the bayonet.
Is B4 there considered slightly early? Because sometimes when I
Yeah.
play B4, at least online, I probably have never played B4 OTB in this position, but or maybe I have when I was slower rated, but because after B4 for white, A4 is a little concerning for I saw A5 concerning for black. I mean, black playing A5 could be concerning for white.
Yeah, so I don't know what it is about this move order that is confusing me. It seems as if after this and here. No, this is the correct moment to play it. Because after A5, I think black plays bishop A3. If black plays this, I think black usually responds here.
Oh, interesting.
And then if capture, then A4, A5 might be a thing, or A4 and then C5. If I'm not mistaken, we can check. Actually, maybe we should check the main database, but I think that's how that goes. Yeah, if here and A5, then the overwhelming favorite, well, overwhelming, is 56% versus 44% between bishop A3 being the more common move, and then B takes A5 is also seen here in this
Okay.
position. And bishop A3 looks like it scores a bit better overall. Okay. And we have, of course, heavy hitters like Kramnik, Kasparov, Magnus in this position. So the actual game, Eddie plays knight E8. The main line used to be this. I think it probably still is. And then white has two main approaches. The taciturn rook e1, just allowing for this and this. And then I believe this is the other approach, or another approach, where after here, maybe this is happening. Something like this. I think I've seen Andy Hortolosa play something like this before as white. So, but Eddie goes his own way with knight e8. There might have been an argument here after knight e8. Maybe there's an argument to go c5 immediately.
Yeah, A4
I think
seems
that's
a
the
little
most.
slow.
Yeah, A4. So often in these pawn storms, you make the pawn moves you have to make rather than ones you want to make, and there's no reason to play A4 in that specific position if c5 is available, unless your pieces aren't developed properly yet. Maybe there's no big issue with a4, but I just think why not strike while the iron's still hot type of deal. White's center is coming under serious pressure here.
Yeah. I don't really like
Knight
that.
G. Yeah, that move is it's so it's not uncommon in these bayonet type positions for White to be willing to go into G5 and then into E6, leaving his pawn looking vulnerable on that square, but using the open lines to keep black under pressure. In fact, I think one of the games from the closed featured this idea. It might have been Sammy versus might have been one of Sammy's games. Maybe either versus Charles Hua. But anyway, he gets this sort of idea going. Here, however, White's position isn't as well developed, and so he probably isn't going to get enough compensation for the pawn. And after actually now, this just has to be better for black,
Yeah,
especially if
it's a disaster. He needed to play probably like Bishop B2. Knight G5 was just it didn't really do
yes.
much. It only kind of helped black. So develop your last undeveloped piece and play from
Well,
there.
he does have to worry about this. So maybe he
Oh
goes
yeah,
knight d2.
that's right.
But then the problem is that he's still losing. He's still in danger of losing something because if he plays straightforward with this and this, maybe he can bail out due to a bishop c4. But let's see if we try to get. I don't know. This is just
I
not
think he's
nice.
hanging on. He's hanging on. Black's hanging on to the pawn if he takes it on D5.
Yeah, yeah. So it seems as if his position is already pretty critical here.
Yeah.
But knight g5 just seems to make everything go that much quicker. And one of the benefits of not capturing the pawn on e6 is that White can take advantage of the pin of a pin along the a2 g8 diagonal. So he has to run back, and now the king escapes that diagonal, and now it's probably almost at the point of the cliche matter of technique. That was an interesting exchange.
Yeah, it didn't seem like he had to give him that pawn, but
No, let's take a look. So if he plays, say for example, he plays here, then maybe this is what he's concerned about, but that's not really doing anything after here. So anyway, Eddie has his ways. He's typically thinking very concretely. So there's probably something he saw in the position, like maybe the idea of a knight e3 coming here.
and he still has 56 minutes, so this is good.
Yes, good and strange,
Hmm.
because that's not the typical Eddie time management scheme.
Wait a sec.
Yeah, this is looking Being weird. So knight g4, okay. I suppose Eddie was trying to go in for a tactic and might have misjudged something here and
Wait,
then
couldn't you
decides
have
to.
just won an exchange with? And I'm sure this is completely winning too, but I think knight d1 is also winning an exchange. But
That's what I thought. I don't know why he didn't go for it. Um, I can't see what
probably
he.
everything's winning, so he just played knight g4.
And
But
now he's giving up a piece. All right, well, I guess that's a different way of giving it up. Um,
yeah.
okay, so mate next move. Oh, poor Matt. I think the opening there, we go back. Um, A4 just seems like it was a bit too slow. After 98, which, according to the database, 9% of games in the master database. After 98, the top move here is C5. Um, oh, this is actually kind of fun. So the top move is C5, but A4 actually scores maybe a little bit better. They're probably equivalent, but that's funny. A4, F5, and the top move in this position is A5, believe it or not.
Yeah,
And
why does the computer
92,
have the arrow suggesting e takes f5?
because
I've never understood those arrow suggestions by lead chess because sometimes like in this position it's just a very bad move.
yes, I don't get it. Uh, yeah, after F5, humans looking at the position, human masters looking at the position, consider either A5 or knight D2 to be the way to go, and I think both look decent. But A5 performs a lot better than knight D2. So C5 here um, has a 50% score, and part of the problem is C5. I guess the two problems with C5 in this specific position is after F5 has been played. Let me take this off here. After after F5 has been played, attacking the base of the pawn chain, you have to readjust and decide either to overprotect the base with knight D2, um, or at least don't remove the other base of this pawn. So that's where A5 makes sense as a first thing, just to continue putting pressure. And now if he does come here, you can go there and you're not dealing with the same issue of him being able to capture on C5 and then have a poorly defended D5 pawn that's happened in the game, if that makes sense. So here, now the D5 pawn has already lost one anchor, and after the E pawn goes, it's I suppose the important point is not even the pawn itself, but the square d5 is now completely dominated by black's pieces. So yeah, and after this, some interesting decisions, but Eddie was able to get it done at the end. All right, let's see what's going on with Norman versus Davids. That's still ongoing. Oh yeah, Norman's a Stonewall guy. So
Where did the opening get the name Stonewall?
Huh?
Do you know where the name Stonewall came from?
Oh, well, it's just descriptive. So if you look at this pawn structure right here, it's as if there's this strong wall of pawns that it's hard to bash your head against successfully, right? That's kind of the idea. It's hard to generate play against this stone wall of dark square pawns. Similar to what happens in the Stonewall variation of the Dutch, where black has f5, e6, d5, c6. How are you going to attack that pawn structure, right? And so metaphorically, you just said, oh yes, it's like um, a hard stone wall that you can't break up. Although, of course, over time, the person who has to deal with the stone wall has found ways to soften it up. And so here, CD4, well, C5 first of all, and then CD4 already is weakening the stone wall and turning it into a chain link fence, I suppose. um, so and that shows up after bishop d6. And so white has to decide if he's going to play d3 or maybe push f5. He chooses to play g3 to shore up the pawn, but that does weaken f3 a little bit. And this is one of the supposed benefits of these pawn structures, is that any knight gets a decent spot on e5 in many of these positions. Problem for Norman is his piece deployment is not great. And so black is already more than equalized here. And after that sequence, he now has a pretty strong knight on e4. White's king is still stuck in the center. Maybe Norman can consider knight d2, which he does. And and then here you have a reverse stonewall. Well, a stonewall of the stonewall, kind of. Anyway, with f5. And after that, black has a protected pass pawn. Probably his knight's going to be more versatile than black's bishop. And white's king is still stuck in the center. Fortunately, queen g4 wins the tempo, so maybe he can use that to castle, which he does. But this seems like it's just going to be better for...
Yeah, and this is a position where eventually you can reroute that knight, and it might even be better than the bishop.
Yes. Yes, that's what I said. The knight seems more flexible than the bishop. The pawns being on dark squares doesn't typically augur well for the bishop's chances in these kind of positions. And Davids is enthusiastically exchanging queens with the confidence that his knight will outplay Norman's bishop here. Now, that's an interesting move. I think Norman made the right choice. Huh?
I said probably a suspect move.
Yes, because now after this, at least white has hopes that he can cause inconvenience because one of black's pieces will probably have to babysit g5. So yeah. I think maybe working for g6 might be a better approach. And then if h5, you go here. Now there's still, oh, I don't know. Yeah, maybe g5.
Are you worried about
And then
losing the knight and then bishop sacks on g5?
that's what I was going to say. That's the problem with that approach, is that the knight still has to babysit, or something has, and it actually has to be the knight in this situation, because the king, I guess the king could stroll over to the king side and then allow the knight to run over to c4 or somewhere. But there's also the
Just like
possibility of,
leaving the tension just like this. So
yes,
like no need to play g5 at all. I mean, it probably should be a draw, but let's just play king c7, king d7, and black's probably slightly better, but
yeah, I think just focus on getting the king to the best position, and let white decide how he wants to set up the pawn structure. If white has to move here, and black doesn't compromise his pawn structure, then white might be the one with the weakened pawn. So, for example, if say black plays king here, if white tries to go with that, then I think even this, and this, and now the rules are reversed. It's white who has to babysit a weak pawn. And on
yes.
the other hand, yes. And on the other hand, if say king c7 again, and he plays here, then the pawn sacks, the bishop sacks aren't really. They can still be an issue, but I don't think they're that serious. And actually, if black can get his king in and cause some weakness on the queen side, he may be able to get away with knight g5.
But you bring up an excellent point on let your opponent make the mistakes. Let your opponent be the one to push and to be aggressive, because I think this is something like strong players, and by strong I mean like titled players, do really well. Is they sit back and they can play very slow until at the right moment when they know when to pounce. And to the untrained eye, it looks like, oh, they went from an maybe a dead equal position to all of a sudden they're winning, but that's because they were slowly, minutely building up their position until they were able to strike.
Yes.
And which is why even once you get to probably around 1600 or so USCF, you see players just not exchanging as soon as they can, because they know there's often not only merit in keeping tension, but also merit in not pushing. So yeah, just keeping the tension was, well, not even keeping the tension, but just not pushing at all was definitely better.
Yes. Not having the pawns engage. Um, let white's pawns come to him and see what happens. But okay, we'll see here that black is. Can he get away with this? So this is where this is where Davids is going to have to show some guile, and I think he's found the right way. He needs to exchange defenders. So bring the king back to the king side, and then send the knight off on an expedition to the queen side, where the pawns have been weakened. Because after this, which is understandable that he might consider it, but that pawn, the square on c4 is a forever square, and we shouldn't forget. And also the square on a4 might be a route to get into d3, and black already has one advantage in that he's the only one with a protected passed pawn.
Yeah.
So he can play this for 100 moves. As long as he doesn't fall to some bishop g5 tactic, he should be fine. So the king completes the journey from the queen side over to g6. And now the knight is going to start his gyrations.
Probably the unfortunate thing though for black will be white can just sit on c1 and the bishop will dominate the knight.
Yep. So actually, I don't see any way for him to break in. Oh, there's that route. So now the and this is what's so painful about these sort of positions where you have there's a it's not a rule but a bit of advice. I think it was from Grandmaster Axel Smith. Um, no lever, no plan. If you have no
Yes,
pawn breaks.
I have that book. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you have no valid pawn breaks, then uh, you're retrieving it from the library. Yeah, if you have no pawn breaks, especially in positions like this, yes, pump it up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when you're in a passive position like this and you don't have any valid pawn breaks, it will be miserable for a very long time. Now, it's not to say that because the knight has found this other route that it's going to win, but you can imagine the torture of having to keep on playing in what seems like a deadly dull position, and one mistake is enough to end everything. In fact, I've had to deal with this against stronger players where they'll just in fact, I would have gotten an objective draw, and they just maneuver around, and it seems like you're repeating the same position twice, and then oops, psych, and then they go around the other way, and then like 20 moves later, you've almost reached the same position, and then they move a pawn, and it's just waiting you out until finally you forget your step in the tango, and then everything collapses.
I
And
bet
that
there's a book
is
out there just called The Endgame Grind.
oh, there is.
No, I said I bet there is.
It should be soon enough. Now, one question we can ask here is if Black is going to have some valid way to sack his knight for pawns, but it doesn't seem that that's available. Maybe he can try for knight if Norman is careless, maybe get knight e1, knight d3. But the position is simple enough that I don't see how that happens. Oh, could he have tried? Oh, but the king doesn't have an entry, so he can't even afford to do, say, something like this. Because exchanging off is um, drawn. There's no way for Black's king to get in.
Yeah. I was a bit surprised he played knight h4, knight f3. My instinct was knight f4.
Mm-hmm. Yes. If you go back here, I thought he was going for knight f4, which is a direct route to d3, and white definitely can't afford to capture on can't afford to capture on that square. And if he tries for something like this to avoid, let's see, how does he do it? Should he do it this way? Just to try and avoid the fork.
I guess it's just you can't use the one piece, so probably still a draw.
Yeah. So unless there's some world where you can give up that g5 pawn, I think Norman's holding.
David's just trying.
Yes. And all right, this is probably going to have a peaceful ending. Let us go back to, well, actually, there's some other games we haven't looked at. So we have Srijan Vaidyanathan versus Stephen Heinisch. Vienna game. Interesting. This seems rather harsh by Srijan. At some point earlier, I think e6 might have been an interesting try. Maybe here, playing e6, but
Yeah, in fact, that just probably wins on the spot.
yeah. Yeah, I thought this was what he was going for, but then he played queen d8. I don't know if there are any defenses here. Because actually, it's just killing, right? Because if he tries for this, then that's the quietus. And if he plays queen takes queen, then at the very least, pawn takes knight wins a piece.
Yeah.
Neither f6 or f5 is just actually no, he's just lost here. So anyway, but yeah, he so that might have been a slight inaccuracy on Srijan's part.
And it looks like he played that move in 2 minutes, so just for him to slow down a little bit would have been a good idea.
Oh yeah, that's just 2 minutes. Yeah, that's not good. And I don't know if rook f1 was better than 0-0. I would think there was an argument in favor of 0-0, getting the rooks connected immediately. But it's still going to be a very thankless defense for black here. Oh, I suppose.
That's a
He gained the king
little
pawn anyway.
suspect,
Huh?
though. Can't the king take?
Yeah, the king can take. So I'm not exactly sure what gives. Okay.
This seems a bit forced. Why didn't he just take? Now you're just pinning yourself even more.
Yeah, I mean he's going to lose the g pawn, but he's not losing a pawn overall, right?
Yeah, and the knight hops in. So
Yeah. I mean, I guess he's already a pawn down. No, actually, yeah, in this position he's already a pawn down. So it's not as if he's worse by exchanging off. Although maybe he's concerned about the passed pawns storming down the board,
probably,
the
yeah.
G and H pawns. But this can't be better. Or maybe it can. I don't know. We'll see.
This is the ideal position for anyone ever up a pawn in a chess game ever.
Yes. Yep. It's like it's one of those positions where you can't afford to use technique. You need to just use a club.
Yeah,
Just caveman approach. Push, push, push. And yeah. That was a nice finish by Srijan. And we have Juan Perez versus Justin Girton. And Let's see. This is, I think, still under construction, so we'll leave that one alone. There's Jules Billmeyer versus Nate Hoover. I don't think we've seen her games in a while.
Yeah.
Okay, that is weird. I don't think I've seen that one before. Um,
Knight
I
F3
mean,
can't
it
be
does.
good.
Huh?
I said Knight F3 can't be good.
No, no. It seems as if maybe Bishop F4, although Knight C6 is coming. So I suppose maybe that pawn is not. Maybe Queen D4 is a problem. Maybe you play Knight F3 instead. And there might be shades of the England, right? Where if D6, now the knight is helping to control G5, so it can play here. And if black thinks they have to play this, then you can exchange on D6 and they don't have an active bishop coming up. And they end up with probably a weak pawn to say something like this. They end up with a weak pawn on D6.
Yeah.
And very little compensation. So that maybe Knight F3 would have been a more accurate approach than Queen. It's always, some of the computers have shown us that many of the quote opening rules and principles don't have to be followed slavishly, but especially in positions that are open like this, you should still be wary of bringing your queen out too early if it's going to end up a target. The one notable exception, and I don't have the t-shirt on right now, is in this position. This is very much appropriate. So yes, very nice.
Scan the QR code, chat. No.
So but on a serious level, this Queen D4 was probably a mistake because you have all this business happening. And it's not just that she's giving back the pawn, it's that Nathan's getting the kind of position he likes. His pieces are active, and with every move, he can try and create some sort of threat. Now, it seems like, I don't know, but it seems as if maybe we at least consider the possibilities of Rook D1, just to test Nathan's temperature and see how he's going to respond to that. And then eventually maybe consider either bishop takes h6 or bishop c1, where now the rook isn't stuck on the other side of the position. So something like maybe here, say here, and then decide on either this or queen, bishop all the way back. Either one being an option. But this also has something going for it in that it would have taken a much longer time to get the king to a castled position using the variation I suggested. So this actually has something going for it too. This her approach, especially since she can now look for potential discovery opportunities.
Yeah, it's playable for both sides, but like we'll need to be careful with their queen.
Yes, and I don't know. It seems as if already at this moment the queen is.
So maybe you have to play G5.
Yeah, I don't know. I think G5 might be the only way. to create some room for the queen in this position, because right now she's extremely short on squares and will probably have to put herself in a position where she's victim to some sort of discovered attack.
Yeah. And this, unfortunately, is back to your point, just another reason why you need to be really slow to bring the queen out.
Yes,
Yeah, because now there's just knight e4 and knight f2.
exactly. Which Nate chooses not to go for that. And oh, that's because I suppose he gets to win or threaten to win a piece, and I don't see how the queen is escaping. In fact, the queen is still trapped.
Yeah, probably like queen b3, knight a5.
That's what happened in the game. And it appears the queen has run out of fresh air.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't play b5 to begin with, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I'm not sure why either. I suppose maybe he thought it was simplifying things not to have to deal with discoveries against his queen.
Oh, maybe he's worried about knight b5.
Yes. Ouch. Yeah, I think I don't know about this about the sanity of Nate's opening. But I mean Nate, as I mentioned last week, Nate is a fan of e5 pawn sacks in the opening, as in the Albert counter gambit. So this might be some obscure book stuff he went for with that early e5. Who knows? Well, let's go to the next game, which is Daryl Bimberg versus Shatvat Vijayaraj. And that starts off in a Kale, which then becomes like a King's Indian. So, what's going on here? So d4 to f6, e3. So it's a threat is threatening a Kale type thing. And then g6 happens. Okay. Yeah, actually, I think Yusupov used to play this way sometimes. So now we've transposed into a more standard King's Indian type approach. And it seems like I wouldn't be unhappy to have Daryl's position here in this position.
Yeah, no, this is it's comfortable enough. Hmm.
Yeah, this is not clear to me. That pawn on b2 might be an issue.
True. I
What
think
does white
playing
have? Yeah.
f4 is going to be beneficial for white. It's obviously your most obvious plan, really your only plan. And even though you give black the um, e5 square for their knight, and in some sense the dark square for their queen, um, you open up the f file, and you can always bring your knight back to d3 if they take on f4. So I definitely would consider f4.
Yeah, I'm stuck between playing f4 straight away and playing g3 f4 to give ourselves the opportunity to capture back with
Good point.
the g pawn. But would that be too slow? Because again, black's play on the queen side might be a bit quicker. Well, yeah, he does go for f4 immediately. Queen b6, king h1. These are all logical. Shavat does not take the opportunity to capture on f4, probably so as not to activate white's knight.
Now, I think something important just happened there. So I think instead of king h1, they could have tried
f5?
f5, and then yeah,
Yes.
black doesn't have the option of playing g5. But as soon
Yep.
as he played king h1, Shotvat's like, oh, let's play f6, and now with f5, I can play g5 myself. So yeah,
Yes. Which actually, if he tries for f6 now, we can already prevent him from blocking things up completely, right? Because of course, given a move, maybe black might want to play f. Well, actually, this might be a situation where you don't prevent him from playing bad moves. Because if he plays g5, then you should be ready to hit him with h4. So say we go here now with the double idea, rook b3 on the queen side, and rook to the other side with this as a target. And it looks difficult for Shadva to hold here, no?
perhaps.
But that didn't happen in the game. Instead, king h1 happened. And this is one of those situations where it's a nice prophylactic move, king h1, but it's not necessary right now when there are things that are necessary to take care of. You know, the chances that black will be able to budge your bishop away from c4 by force, it's pretty slim. And so you prioritize what needs to be done before what you want to do here.
Good life
And so,
lessons.
yes. Unfortunately, I don't follow it well enough. I've got too many procrastinator norms in life. But okay, it is what it is. Here we go with that, and all of a sudden, Daryl pulled some magic there. What's going on? So he leaves his pawn hanging, but it's not really hanging because the knight on a6 needs protection. So then Shava plays a4, creating a weakness on a4, and combined with the fact that the knight on d7 is in loose pieces drop-off mode, he plays bishop b5, forking the two units, and wisely decides against capturing on e4 because then knight b4 would probably cause enough confusion. So he plays knight c3, which threatens knight takes a4. Oh, that's where things went awry.
So he thought he could win a pawn, and he thought his knight was on c3 still guarding his bishop, maybe.
Yes, yes. We're in this position, I think, after bishop here, I think you can actually digest that pawn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's sad. He was one move away from having a nice position.
Yes. All right. So then he gives up a piece. It's an unfortunate error because he was playing pretty well. Oh, and then it gets compounded because he then captures on e5 at the worst possible time because the rook can't move and leave its compadre on a4. So then he has to give up an exchange. and Shotvat finds a very efficient way to have the game stopped. It's actually interesting here that the knight has no escape. If it tries knight a4, and all of a sudden it turns out that all his escape squares are already covered.
Yeah.
So Daryl decides to resign. I think we have one last game, maybe. Let's see.
I believe so, yeah.
Is this still going? I guess Jacob is on his last. Okay, well, I guess we'll close the night on this game. Jacob is playing on ink, and he's got a difficult position. Maybe it's probably losing, but he should still fight. Who knows? Maybe he'll be able to steal something. But it's going to be difficult because his pawn's chances of promoting are slim, because then I can always capture on f2. How do we get here? Let's go back a bit. I think we were somewhere. Oh, a lot has happened. Okay, so I think we left around here. Yeah, we left around here. King a3, allowing the bishops to be exchanged. Wait a second. Was this after they had? Was this way after they had done that dance? Okay, yeah. So yeah, they had that dance going on where we were discussing whether there's a repetition, and so Jacob's able to steal a second pawn, but okay, maybe his knight is slightly misplaced. And I guess it's not a win of a pawn at all, because Robert's able to get it back. But this endgame cannot be what Robert wants. His pawns are pretty unhealthy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sometimes it's
so
good times.
yeah, I am stuck trying to figure this one out. Somebody's getting fancy. Okay, so that's one pawn is given back. Now let's take a look and see, because here he plays there. And I thought the path was going here and here immediately, and then get things going rather than bring the knight to the unstable d2 square.
Yeah. I think you're right that you save the pawn that way and then you're just completely winning.
Yeah. But Robert's a fighter, and he keeps on finding ways to toss sand in his opponent's eyes.
Okay, now Black needs to start pushing their own pawns.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he won the pawn, but he's not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
It's
think
risky.
This looks like a very risky approach. Um, so maybe he has to. Maybe he has to bring his rook to c7 and c8 to have any chance. Otherwise, the pawn promotes. Hopefully, he calculated this out because this seems rather.
And with 1 minute left, it's unlikely.
Yeah. So knight d6. Oh my.
But okay, wait. This is where you had the opportunity to do the awesome rook sack. Rook c7.
What? Hold on. Rook c7.
I like
Rook
these type of
takes.
endgames. I mean, those three pass pawns are kind of
Yes,
scary.
yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Quite right. This is. And the king is perfectly placed, actually. Well, maybe he could try this. Let's see. If he goes here, we go here. He goes here. We go. Hmm. Maybe we go.
Yeah,
Maybe
let's
we
try
go
that. King d2.
here.
Eventually, if he keeps checking us, we'll. Huh? Maybe it's
Yeah,
still a
this
drop,
seems
but
good. Because this is too slow here. Oh
because now
no.
we lose
So
our
maybe we
pawn.
do keep our king closer to the pawns. So if you cap, so we keep our king closer to the pawn, maybe here, and
Maybe king
say
c2.
king c2 here.
I feel like this is still winning.
Let's see, king
That's
here,
forced. Now king, yeah, king f2.
king here. I think that should do it. In fact, maybe there's even an argument that we can. No, if we play G1 here, I think he draws.
Yeah.
So yeah, we play f4 first, preparing f3, and the king's just not getting there in time. So then this would be winning. So yeah, that's an idea. I like that idea. Um, but with little time and probably already losing some degree of his confidence because the game is turned around against him, he plays this way. I maybe he plays e5 instead.
No, he's
And that's so
equalized
cruel.
material.
Yes, equalized material, and he can't even move his pawn forward because of if he tries for um, f3, the knight d4 wins the pawn immediately. What I'm trying to figure out is how Robert was able to cheat his way to a queen.
This is such a weird endgame. Rooks and knights and one pawn each.
Yes. Oh, that's how he did it. But still, okay.
So he
Cute.
didn't promote because of the fork on d6. Okay.
Yes. So he goes there instead, and that's how you get this material imbalance. And yeah, that pawn on f3 is going nowhere.
Oh, wait, why couldn't he take?
Yeah, I'm trying to
Oh,
figure it out.
because rook h3, knight f4.
Oh, the rook h3, knight f4.
Sacrificing the rook
everyone's,
always.
everyone's getting tricky here. Now, in this position, knight f3 is winning, right? Yep, knight f3 is winning. So, well, the game is still, or has the game ended because Jacob ran out of time?
Yeah, I think the game's over. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. But that was actually kind of fun to watch the end of
Yeah,
that game.
that was an interesting endgame.
Yeah.
It looks like the Thomas Babcock game. I don't think we finished that, did we?
You might be right. Let's see. Yes, we had not. We stopped. We left at knight h5 here. So let's see if David followed our recommendation. Okay, so knight d7 takes away a lot of the joy because you don't have the weakness on g8 to play with, as we did in that one line. In principle, the right way is trying to get e5 available for his knight, but tactically not no bueno because of the issues with the knight on h5 and so now what happened here? Oh yes, the reason why we're in this situation is because Thomas had to give up his exchange.
Yeah.
So most exchanges will probably favor David. So what's the idea here? If knight takes c4.
Always. And Jordan was saying in chat. Okay, go ahead.
Right. Okay. So yeah, so let's take a look at the last game. I skipped it over because it looks as if it seems as if it was still in construction, but now it seems as if we have a full game in. So this is Juan Perez versus Judson Gerton, and it's a French exchange variation with knight f3, knight c3, sorry, which can sometimes transpose if after bishop b4 becomes like a windward exchange, and if knight f6 is a more traditional exchange out of the classical variation. And here, they're both developing fairly sensibly. White might have a little niggle because of black's light square bishop not having a comfortable square yet. Maybe it'll have to go to e6. And then queen d2 from Juan might be predicting queenside castle, bishop b4, and 0-0. And so queenside casting happens. And in the meantime, while white was getting his pieces ready of moving his king to the queen side. Black was getting knight e4 in. And one of the interesting things in these exchange variation battles is who gets to control e4 and e5. The file is as important as those two squares in many of these positions. And Judson's able to make the first invasion in the center with knight e4. So after the exchange, and the knight e5, there's an argument for considering ignoring it, but it's not a very strong argument. So Judson captures, and now after bishop f5, queen e3, we have an interesting bishop of opposite color middle game, which is often surprising how strong that is if one of the sides has attacking chances. Here, Judson decides to play queen e7, inter alia giving up the c7 pawn, and in the meantime, one isn't interested because he doesn't want to open a file against his king. Instead, he plays d5, opening an attack against the g7 pawn, which Judson ignores. Or so it seems.
Oh,
Tricky bugger.
beautiful tactic.
So made him look. And so after that, Judson's still in the piece in broad daylight. And now the question is, can Juan create enough counterplay for his lost piece? It's going to be hard, but Black's bishop position might give him some chances to get some sort of counterplay. I might have been tempted to play queen g5 myself to slow things down, with the idea that if you try for f4, then you can just capture en passant. But this is probably safer with king, just get the king off the way. This is not a position where time is as critical as putting your pieces on the right squares.
Yeah, I think he's defending this well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And now Judson's position is as safe as houses, and he has the extra piece. So with a modicum of care, he should be able to reel this one in. And already he has pressure against c2, which he chooses to exchange off rooks, probably the safer approach. Especially if he can safely capture d5 and then go down to the back rank. Loosey-goosey, but still working. And the idea, by the way, is that after this, the white queen is stuck, because if it moves away from the diagonal, then rook a1 is checkmate. So, for example, he tries to be a ragamuffin with this, then that loses, and that's another way to checkmate. So he pretty much has to agree to the exchange. And Judson takes a very careful but effective approach. And after that, Yeah, you could call it a blunder, but his position was going down anyway. So yes, that was a good game by Judson. I definitely enjoyed the looky here, free pawn attack. He
Yeah,
used to.
I think he like definitely once he got a winning position, he definitely I would say outperformed his. He already has a good rating, but I think he outperformed his current rating. He just really didn't make any mistakes at all and made it simple as possible on himself, which is what you want to do when you have a winning
Yes,
position, but there are still some major pieces. The only thing I
exactly.
wanted to mention was that what move was it? Let's see. I thought White had an opportunity. Yeah, so we touched on it, but instead of D5, I think Juan Perez could have gotten a slightly preferable position with
So instead
Queen
of
C7 instead of
so
D5 on move
he
16. I think what he was worried about was Queen C7, Queen C7, Bishop C7, and
mhm.
then probably let's just say Rook FC8 so that there's no Bishop D6s. Um, and then I think he was worried about the bishop moving and um, E3 threatening C2 and F2 and stuff like that. But I think you can just move the pawn and we're just going to end up winning black's E pawn back anyways. And now we're just up a pawn and we do have a passed D pawn. So I think if
Mhm.
Juan would have gone for that, he
Yes,
would have been obviously much better off, but probably even
yes,
slightly better.
yeah. I think here just something like this, and there really isn't much that White should fear in this position. So say something like this happens, you round up the pawn, and yeah, that's a good point.
Probably still a draw, but I think he would have been happy there.
Yes. Um, yeah, and then going for the just as in life, it's very difficult to find a truly free lunch. And that's was the end of that. But yeah, I mean both players after the piece disappeared, I think Juan did do a good job of trying to create play. It was just that the position didn't give him many chances, and Judson also didn't give him many chances. He played carefully, but not necessarily passively, and I think that's an important differentiation. Is he played carefully, but he didn't curl into a ball,
Hmm.
waiting to see if Juan would punch himself out. He actually kept his pieces as active as possible while not um, leaving things stray. So,
Yeah.
all right, cool. Well,
So,
that's an interesting night of games. I think. Congratulations to Jordan for um, coming first again. This time shared with Nathan. And Nathan, of course, congratulations to him. He's probably, I don't know, but I suspect he is high up on the leaderboard for the year.
yeah, so I believe so Jordan has won every Thursday nighter so far this year, but he's tied with a couple people, a couple different rounds. I know Kyler won 1 month, along with him. David Bocek won 1 month. And I believe Nathan has two. So yeah, Nathan's at now he's at three. Um,
Okay.
at least that's what the standings had shown. So yeah, it's
Okay.
a strong mix of players who are getting their first place in.
Yeah. All right. Any other announcements before we close shop?
Um, Pretty much same as always. And oh, congratulations to Srijan on winning the Open.
Yes.
He got 5 out of 5, so not not
Nice.
bad. He'll definitely gain some rating there. It's especially nice to go undefeated in a five Thursday month. And yeah,
Yes.
other than that, just the regular um announcements via the YouTube description. Check out the Discord, check out Chess Goals, and save the 30%. and also check out Webeccentric and save 15%. And there's also the merch store and exciting updates on that soon. But yeah, for now, the shop.webeccentric.com is where you're going to find that, and you can find all sorts of cool stuff. And yeah, next month I believe it'll just be me and you again. But yeah.